Hello friends, this is Akulmach live and I'm Chandrakant. Today we will discuss about cybersecurity and also how it impacts our kids, especially when our kids are joining their school sessions using their online channels that school has provided. Are they secure? Are they prone to any cyberbullying? Is their identity being compromised? There are a whole lot of questions. It's a very hot subject. To discuss this subject, we have a very special guest joining us from UK. Before we start our discussion, I have to tell you that you can point your camera onto this QR code and you will get instantly connected with our channel. This is a very user-friendly way to get connected without typing any web address or any code. So this is the latest stuff, and this QR code will be available throughout the length of this video. So friends, I'll be taking a very short break and will join back along with my guest. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, friends. And today we have a very special subject to discuss. And we also have a very special guest in the studios, Mr. Naval Gun, who is also chairman of Mindfit Limited, joining us from London.
Hello, everybody. Hello, CK, and another wonderful start to the week. Beautiful sunny day here, despite the fact of all the trials and tribulations that we've had across Europe with and across America, of course, with these horrendous changing weather conditions. And I see you've had monsoon, CK, so it's pretty bad outside where you are as well.
It's pretty bad. A couple of buildings have collapsed. Some cities have been inundated by flash floods. The news coverage is horrific, actually.
Yeah, it's not good to see. Not good to see at all. So let's delve into a subject today. What subject shall we talk about that's important to you as a parent, maybe?
Well, I think the subject is about cybersecurity for kids, and specifically for kids because all the kids in the world today are actually glued on to their sessions, Zoom sessions or whatever sessions their schools are running, and they are actually joining online. And that is why cybersecurity becomes very, very important, especially with kids, keeping in mind kids' interests and also security, because I think as a parent, we should be worried about it.
Well, as it's a hot topic, you weren't short and slow off the mark in discussing or suggesting a topic there. And cybersecurity for kids, or cyber kids, as I like to call it, is a really hot topic. And as you say, COVID has done one thing for the majority of children these days, and for those in education, they've been forced to educate at home. So the really good thing about that is that young people, even down to the age of 4 and 5-year-old, are getting comfortable with using the internet. They're getting familiar with using these screens. Maybe it's Zoom or it's Google or it's whatever, Microsoft Teams or whatever it is. But teachers have been forced, really, the education system has been forced to utilize this media to help young people keep educated, keep this education flow happening. And the reason for that is quite simple, CK, isn't it? It's about you go to school every day, 5 days a week. I mean, some children go 6 days a week, but majority go 5 days a week, and it's repetition. You see your teachers, you see your friends, you build relationships, all of those soft skills that we take for granted. But actually, that's how we build those soft skills. We build those soft skills by practicing, by moving into those arenas. And another soft skill is resilience, personal resilience. And that comes from being able to think and not have bad feelings about it, or good feelings, actually. Because the best way we can learn is by thinking about it and doing things ourselves. So if I were to say to you, CK, cybersecurity for kids is all around resilience, what would that mean to you?
I think, Naval, resilience is required, undoubtedly. But I think when kids are using their online sessions, anyone can enter that session, or anyone can steal their identity and reach out to them without our knowledge, or probably misuse their identity. So I think it's very scary. I mean, the scenario itself gets very scary when we think of it. So I think resilience is important, especially when somebody tries to contact them, some unknown person trying to contact our kids. I think that is when the resilience predominantly play a role there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, CK. And this is the thing that we don't like to tell our kids about. We don't like to tell them about the bogeyman, the boogeyman, the people that they're going to have nightmares over. But the part about that is it is real life. We don't know, as you quite rightly said, we don't know who's coming into these chat rooms that they're innocently walking into. In fact, I know lots of chat rooms that have been created around the world through the school, through the teaching capability, and they've been infiltrated by pretty despicable characters. And that's the problem. Of laws that are out there are not for the masses, as we would like to think, but they're for the minority. It's to keep the minority in check. Why do we have prisons? Well, we have prisons, for instance, because it's the minority of people that go beyond the law. Everyone else obeys the law. In the cyber world, as you probably may have read in the last few weeks, few months, and in fact, a few years if you've been involved, these social platforms are maybe trying to do a good job to clean up their act. And just like fake news, they're struggling to keep fake news out of the arena. But when it comes to kids, we raise the ante a little bit more. Those of us that have children, and maybe some of you have grandchildren, you start to think, well, we didn't have that in my day. I'm 62 years old, you're into your 50s, and when we were young, I don't know about you, but I don't remember the back door being locked. It was typically open. It was, everyone on the street used to come in, particularly kids, because my mother was a pretty good cook. But the point is, there was a lot of social mobility in the street. And indeed, in some great areas today, that social mobility still exists. However, we've got this negative impact. And on the internet, unfortunately, it's accelerated and it's bigger. We've only got to look at recently, the England team got to the finals of the European Championships, and we lost on penalties. It was a great game, great tournament, but the point was we got to a final, which is the first time in 55 years, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a bit like getting to the Cricket World Cup every now and again. So, but what we've had is not a focus on social media and on the news of how great the team did and how wonderful it was, and maybe next time we'll be a little bit better, but we're going to be far more prepared, and all of the positive stuff that comes out about that tournament. No, what have we seen? We've seen insults, we've seen racism, we've seen 3 black guys that miss penalties that have been ostracized by a real minority of people on social media. And that's the problem. This is what we need to be helping our children be resilient over. Now, these are 3 guys, and they've come out really strong and together, and they've really galvanized the community to get after these racists and really eradicate it. But the problem is, your child may be 4 years old. Where are they going to be galvanized? They've only got you, really, to galvanize them, or their grandparents, or their aunts and uncles. because their friends have got no experience. They can't galvanize it. So what we've got to do is we've actually got to help young people see all the benefits of utilizing the internet and the social media platforms, because there are hundreds, but also make them think, make them become more aware, not in a be afraid arena, but be there with them, be there for them, take them through the process, work with them on a regular basis. And parents really are the only ones that can do that. Or elder siblings that have actually been through it. And their younger siblings will actually acknowledge the elder siblings because they look up to them. They respect them. But this is a really important arena where, just like, as a child, or as my children growing up, I remember my wife reading books to them before they went to sleep. And she'd read a chapter, and the three diddlies, as we called them, because they were all around about the same age, would be sat on the bed and they'd be listening to a chapter on Harry Potter. And there'd always be a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter. If you've ever read the books, fantastic reading. But like anything, you're building a relationship up with your kids. Now, Harry Potter, if you look at it from one side, was really rather nasty. You know, wizards fighting other people, turning people into rats and mice and rabbits and goodness knows what else. I mean, it is a magical fantasy world, but kids can deal with that. It's when it comes into the reality of life that we have to we've got to take them along that journey. We've got to help them and be completely open to their thoughts and their discussions. Because remember, it's not your journey, it's their journey. And the bottom line here, CK, is we really want young people to get the best out of the internet as possible and not be frightened of it. To experiment in a safe way, in a safe arena. And frankly, no matter what any other expert says out there, I've never seen this done better than through parents. Have you seen it done by, cybersecurity experts and maybe even teachers sometimes? I actually really do feel that unless the child has got a very strong bond with the teacher, like they've got with their parent, they're never really going to trust them to the extent that we need them to trust them in this particular arena. I've said a lot, CK, and you've been nodding along and smiling. So what are your thoughts? Have we touched some nerves here? Are we hitting the problem?
Neville, I think first thing that all schools must do is implement a good cybersecurity solution, maybe a proxy solution, maybe a VPN, I don't know. But whatever I've seen is they don't have anything of this sort, and they are relying on public platforms. So public platforms are not secure enough. So I think that is one thing that the schools must do. And I think as a parent, that is the first level of security that I expect from schools to provide. Second is preparing the child. But it's very tough because we don't know where to start and where to finish. And we end up actually scaring the child. So I would like to ask you exactly, if you have done this before, I'm sure you have, what is the best method to inculcate resilience with regard to cybersecurity in our children? And that is my, because I have lack of understanding, that's why I'm asking this from you.
No, it's a great question, CK. And like anything else, every child's different. But I'd like to go back to the point you made. And this is about, we make an expectation that the technology is secure. And what we need to be saying to all of these people in education, certainly all these people that are creating these child-friendly networks, that's what we expect as a minimum from you. So that's one thing that, as I say, I make an assumption that it's there, but you're quite right. Very rarely is there. They'll create a Facebook page. There's no security around that at all. Most people can get in quite easily, as you saw last week when your business page had been infiltrated by a hacker that wanted to get in. And you've also gone through the process of trying to prove to Facebook that you really are a nice person and it was you all along, but someone else has stolen your identity. You know, they've actually come in through your front door. They've sat down at your dining table. They've had breakfast. They've stayed through dinner and expected tea. That's what we're dealing with here. This is someone you don't even know, maybe don't even like. You probably don't like them if they're going to barge in. And that's the issue we've nearly got to be preparing for. But like anything else, CK, you asked a really good question about how do we build this resilience? Where does it come from? Well, how do we build confidence? And these inner skills, soft skills, as a lot of people call them, are really only built through doing things on a regular basis. So this is where I'm saying about having that regular conversation with your child, but not scaring them. Some children actually need to be scared, but only you're going to know that with your child. You know, I used to love the Dracula films on TV. You know, there is nothing scary in the 1960s than a black and white, you know, you can hear the music in the background, dun, dun, dun. And there I am, peeking through my fingers at the TV, you know, maybe I should be watching this, maybe I shouldn't be watching it. My parents are not around, and that's the issue. My parents are not around, so I was doing things I shouldn't be doing. And that's what's going to happen. Now, it didn't affect me that much. I might have had a few sleepless nights and had some interesting dreams, but the reality of life, it didn't really affect me that much. But I asked the question, why didn't it affect me that much? Because I knew it wasn't real in the real sense of the word. It was almost like fake news. It was a film. It never really happened, and even if it happened, it was only in Transylvania. And that was it. You know, and it's only when directors have got a bit more lavish over the years, and now you have Count Alucard, and you even have Count Duckula, you know, so even Disney have made fun out of something that can be quite scary. And I think that's the issue. We need to engage with our kids. And interesting thing is, by engaging more with our kids, we actually find out who the hell we are, who we really are, what makes us tick. Do we care? Do we make time for our children, or do our children fit into the time in the calendar? You know, lunch times, just before they go to sleep. So, answering your question, I hope, has sort of scratched the surface and maybe hit a few nerves. And the other thing is, no one is the best parent in the world. We all aim to be. But like anything else, your style of parenting for your kids may not be the same style of parenting that other children have or need. So this is about, you can read lots of books. Dr. Spock had many, many books about it. You know, Dr. Zeus came along a little bit later and did The Cat in the Hat and all those types of books. And again, this is about teaching children how to be resilient in that they've got to experiment. I'll give you one example, CK. How does a child become resilient when they're learning to walk? I mean, you probably can't. I can't remember when I was learning to walk, but you can remember when your kids were learning to walk. You know, did they fall over and cry?
Well, I think it's by falling. I think that's the short answer. Yep. But they fell over, and sometimes they hollered, and it didn't happen overnight either. You know, we're not going to make them cyber secure or, you know, brilliant people overnight. This takes some time. You know, typically to learn how to walk and feel confident walking, here's the word, confident, and be resilient when you
no, didn't quite learn that well enough, and I've toppled over, you know. And you could just imagine a baby toddling from side to side. And then that child gets really good at it and they start dancing. And we see it a lot on TikTok, and we see it on the GIFs that are out there. You know, you see some wonderful pictures of a toddler, you know, or a young child, probably somewhere about a year old. And there's one, do it like a boss, I think. And you've got this baby in nappies just sort of strutting down like the Godfather, you know? I mean, it's great fun to watch. But the point is that child's become resilient, super confident. Doesn't mean to say they're not going to fall over, though. But the thing is, when they fall over, what happens next? When your child gets themselves into a bit of trouble, what you want them to do, because they're experimenting, is to come to you and just say, what do you think about this? How do I get out of that? And that's building that relationship. So there's no easy way to do this. It's simple. The solution's simple, but there's no quick fix. You've got to build that relationship up with your child and create a network of security, because it's not just you and one of your children. It's your whole family. And it's your family network and your extended friends, and then that might extend to school. Hope that helps. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Neville. In fact, what has happened is that some of these platforms have identified this issue, and that is why the children are not allowed to create their email addresses. So usually what happens is, to access the school ERP solutions, you need an email address. And usually we have experimented with this, and I'm sure it's a common knowledge, everybody knows that it's the parent email ID that they are using. So we are actually creating email IDs for them with their name, but we are actually, so that is one of the methods. You know, we create our own email ID with their name. Or the other method is, especially in Google, you can create a family, and then you can create a young children email ID, which are less than 16 years of age. So once that is done, I mean, either of the options, if you have exercised, then you know exactly what they are doing with their system, because Google is capturing everything and recording it, and you can actually go and see what websites they have visited and all that. But I think the question still remains that how do you inculcate resilience with regard to cybersecurity? I think you are absolutely right. I understood what you're trying to tell me. That is that you have to spend time with them, tell them risks of any cyberbullying or cybersecurity related issue. And it's not a one-day job. You have to continuously keep doing it till the time they become resilient.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the interesting thing is when you get to the being a teenager, things, again, they change. You know, your body starts changing, your self-awareness starts changing, and again, your parents have to go with the flow. You know, I remember we had three in the sort of teen arena, and two that were quite a bit older, ready to go to university. Now, that's a huge gap. When they're all quite young, you know, maybe under 11, there's not so much of a gap. But in that teenage years, there's a huge gap. And then as they come out of those teenage years, maybe go to university, graduate, get a job, then the gap narrows again. So we've got this sort of concertina type of effect. Maybe you might call it a traffic jam, I suppose, in some respects, if you've ever been stuck in it, because you are stuck in it for a little while. But we do know that in the teenage years, we have a lot of self-harm. We have a lot of self-abuse. We have a lot of bullying, cyberbullying, not by people you don't know, but by people you do know. So the key here is this isn't just going to come from the nasty part of society that you can't see, because they just do it digitally and they never see you on the screen, and they're very clever and very good at it. That's one sect. But there's another thing about human behavior. I don't remember being called a bully at school. I don't think I was the bullying type in some respects, but there's a bullying all of us. And you can be nasty to somebody just in a few words that you say to them. Now, that can be on a text or it could be face-to-face. And what we need to be doing is building that resilience up too. You know, what do you really mean? You know, well, that's a bit nasty. I'm not your friend anymore. You know, I don't want to be your friend. And we hear that, don't we? I mean, you're nodding away there, and you know that your children, because they're nowhere near teenage years, do say that. You're not my friend. I don't like you. You know? And so we deal with that on a regular basis. And I suppose in some respects, that's a form of building resilience. It may not be the right resilience, but you, as a parent, again, if you have the conversation, you can build that discussion into a bigger issue and make it so that these future of your bloodline, of the country, of the economy, of the world, is actually going to grow up being good human beings, being respectful, being nice to other people, and doing the right thing. So this is the big subject, huge subject. And it all forms around that simple little word, resilience. It's not that simple. Resilience. 4 syllables, you know? And it's difficult to do. I have to be honest with you. It's the thought process is simple, but I'm not saying it's easy to do. It is quite difficult to do, because the other thing is what you're doing here is you're reacting to an issue, to a context. And how you react to that could be different depending on the context. So this is almost like building your own little scrapbook of, if this happens, I do that. If this other thing happens, well, I don't do that because that's just going to not be good. I'm going to do something else. And the interesting thing is, the 5 inches between our ears is more than capable of dealing with all of it. But it all comes down to being resilient, experimenting, seeing what's right and wrong for your own personal understanding. And as I say, it's just like learning how to walk. We fell over far more times than we actually put one foot in front of the other. And now we just got to learn to do that again. But this time, we got someone who can really help. And that is mum and dad. And that's the bottom line here. And you build from mum and dad, and you build into the family, and you build into your little private network, which could be your school friends, your teachers, and ultimately it's their family. So you can see how big this can go and how easy it can be done. This process is simple, but it's just hard to do it.
Neville, I think this is a very remarkable discussion we had today. I think 2 keywords that I learned. One is building confidence, which is also reducing the bully nature in your child, and also developing resilience and confidence. So I think this is something which will help all parents to fight the risk of cyber kids or cybersecurity among kids. So Neville, thank you so much for finding time this morning and coming over to our channel and talking to us.
My pleasure, CK. And the point is, just go and enjoy yourself. You know, give your kids some freedom. Don't put a noose around their neck. But give them some checks and balances so that when they become adults, they're far more secure in their own skin. I mean, that's fundamentally what we want to be. We don't want insecure people. Insecure people basically means they're never going to do anything.
Thank you very much, Neville. I think these are quite good advices that you have given us today. But we will catch up with you tomorrow again with something more interesting.
Good to see you, CK. Enjoy, everybody.